Good morning. Welcome to Kings at Home Daily. My name is Steve. I'm one of the leaders based up at City West, just around the corner from here. If you're part of the Kings family, you're welcome. If you're looking in from outside, you're especially welcome. Glad to have you with us. These are just daily nuggets we send out during this lockdown, just to encourage, to feed us from God's word, and I trust that that will be the case this morning. We are working our way through the book of 1 Peter, and we're in chapter 3. So if you have a Bible, why don't you find your way there? And we're looking at a few verses from verse 18 onwards, and I'm just going to read a couple of bits. From verse 18 onwards, it says, "For Christ also suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, to bring you to God. He was put to death in the body, but made alive in the spirit." And then it goes on to talk about Noah and so on. And then again in verse 21, it says it's talking about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who has gone into heaven and is at God's right hand with the angels, authorities, and powers in submission to him. Now, the whole thrust of Peter's letter, Peter's book, it's to Christians in Asia who are suffering, and his basic point really is he wants to give hope to these people who are suffering. He wants to remind them that the dynamic of Jesus' life can be reenacted in theirs, and so the situation is true for us also, that we can have hope in times of suffering, that the dynamic of Jesus' life can be reenacted in yours and mine. And I just want to try and spend a few moments applying that to our lives, applying that to our situation today, here and now. Many of us, many people I'm aware will be suffering during this time, maybe suffering with health, maybe fear, anxiety, maybe suffering just feeling stir crazy, kind of locked in, and suffering financially. Many people will be suffering at this time, and yet as a Christian, the Bible doesn't tell us that we're somehow immune from suffering. It tells us in this life you will face trouble. So how then can we endure and face times of suffering and difficulty, like for many there will be during this time? How can we face those moments, those situations, with hope? Well, I love the thrust of the gospel is that you could look at Jesus dying on the cross, and many did look at him dying on the cross and see it as a failure. See it as, well, that's the end of that, isn't it? Here is this man, good man, preacher, but that's the end of that. That's a failure. He was mocked and beaten, wasn't he? And you could look at that and think, well, he failed. Yet through seeming failure comes success. Verse 18, he suffered for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, him righteous, you and I unrighteous, to bring us to God. What wonderful hope that what was seemingly on the face of it, a failure, he was condemned, beaten, died on the cross. It leads to success. He suffered to bring you and I to God. And then it goes on that he was resurrected, verse 21, and he's now in heaven at God's right hand with angels, authorities, and powers in submission to him. So again, it seemed like it was for failure. It seemed like it was the end, yet he resurrected. He rose again. He's alive at the right hand of the Father, interceding for you and I. And so we can have this wonderful hope through suffering, through difficult circumstances, that he is reigning. He is on his throne. He is reigning, and by his Spirit he's alive in us. So when we face these difficult situations, when we face uncertainty and fear, we can do so knowing that he is alive in us. He is on his throne. We are not alone. And then I just want to, it mentions Noah. It's a very complicated couple of verses, 19 and 20, and commentators disagree, and so I'm not going to dive into that in these few minutes we have. But there's just a very high, stepping back from it all. There's an element where they had to climb into the ark. Yeah, to be saved from the floods and the waters around them, they had to climb into the ark. These 8 people or so it speaks about had to climb into the ark, and I want to just use that as an illustration and say, I want to encourage us, climb into Him during this time. Yeah, there's loads of uncertainty around. Some will be feeling that a lot more than others. Huge uncertainty around us. Huge, as I say, troubles around us and things going on around us. Climb into Him. Stay close to Him during this time. There may be, a storm going on around us, but climb into Him. Stay close to Him. Be in His Word. Be worshipping. Be close to Him during this time, and it will do you good. Bless you, church. I hope that has encouraged you this morning, and look forward to sharing another one of these very soon.